Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or maybe it's good morning or good afternoon, whichever it is for you. I hope it's good, because I'm here with Mr. Usama Dakdok, and he's always happy. Things are always good. And look at that smile. Look at that smile. Who can't love that smile? So welcome,
That's
Usama, and welcome everyone. We are going to talk about the Quran's story of Noah, and of course, Usama's going to leave me with a headache because these Quranic stories are just ah. I just prefer the Bible.
well.
Usama, maybe you want to explain why.
First of all, greetings to you and all our wonderful audience in the name of our Lord and our Savior Jesus Christ. It is Christmas, man. It is the season. You have to have a joyful heart because when you have the joy of the Lord, you have His strength. That's how you can be happy. Second of all, I did not make that mess of Noah. It was Allah and Jibreel, peace be upon him, and Prophet Muhammad, peace and prayer of Allah be upon him. So don't complain about me. If you want to complain, complain about the right agents, the right people. Allah, Jibreel, Muhammad made boo-boos. I have to give you a headache because I want to
I need
share with
to
you
correct
this
you there. It's the angel gibberish.
gibberish. Well, that's a perfect name. How did you come up with that name, man?
I did not. That's Thunderous One in the UK came up with that name, and it's perfect. The angel gibberish.
But believe it or not, his name in the Bible, in the Arabic language, is Gibrael. In the Quran, his name is Jibreel. So even the name of the angel Muhammad changed. And by changing how you pronounce it, you actually lose the meaning of the name, which I cannot remember now. So don't ask me
Right.
what Gabriel means.
So the
But
angel get real. Yeah, he needs to take his own advice.
get real. Hey, anyway, so we're going to be talking about Noah. That is chapter 4. Chapter 4 of, I apologize about that phone call here. They're trying to call me in the middle of I can't believe it. I told you, turn your phone off before we start the show, brother. Why didn't you do that?
I take full responsibility.
Yeah, it must be your fault. Anyway, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. We're going to talk about Noah. Now, as every story we're going to be digging in, it doesn't matter what we're talking about. You're going to hear me repeating the same intro right now for the next story. Muhammad made a boo-boo. And the mistakes of Muhammad is he repeated the stories of the Bible, the biblical account in his Quran. You know, if you make a mistake once and you make a boo-boo once, there's one thing. Because in that case, I'll tell you, I did not make a mistake. Your Bible is wrong. My Quran is right. But the problem is not only the Quran contradicts the Bible, but the Quran contradicts the Quran. And that is a problem. The repeated story of the Quran is a big problem for Muhammad. It's a big problem for Muslim scholars because that's when we know for sure that the Quran cannot be the true word of God. Now, Noah's name is mentioned all over the Quran. We're going to read that in my intro in my book as well, if you haven't read it. But the story of Noah is also repeated, sometimes just one verse. I mean, how in the world you can get knowledge about such great biblical account in one verse? The name of Noah means nothing because if you tell me Noah and Noah and Noah, what is a Noah? What did I learn? Nothing. And when you give me a verse about Noah, still nothing. The problem is when you start giving me more information. The more Muhammad wrote or talked about Noah in the Quran, the bigger the problem we have. And that is where Muslims have no answer, especially when we compare the Quran to the rest of the Quran about Noah. So go ahead, brother. Download my book, put it
So,
up there, and let's do
right.
some digging into the story.
So welcome to today's episode of the Quran versus the Quran. And which one will win, the Quran or the Quran? Personally, I think Usama's going to win here, but let's see if the Quran has a chance. Okay.
Ooh, chance. You speak French. That's a chance. Okay, go ahead.
You know, Americans don't speak proper English. You guys make up words like faucet. Who says faucet? It's a tap. Elevator. It's a lift. Apartment. It's a flat.
Hey, language evolve. Maybe you need to evolve to catch up with us so you can speak better English. But I'm not a guy to tell you about that because I have a funny accent. I was doing a show with Adam Seeker last night, and he made fun of me when I say B instead of P. So my B's and my P's not just me. It's all the Middle Eastern. We don't have a P in our Arabic alphabet. So if it's Bibo, if it's Popcorn, if it's Bipsy, they're all B.
I was about to say, guys, have a Pepsi, sit back, relax. Okay, so the story of Noah.
Okay.
I mean, aren't you supposed to be doing this seriously, like two serious people discussing theology?
Let me put it this way: if you take the Quran seriously, you will lose your brain. You might as well have fun with it. Otherwise, you're gonna lose. Literally, you cannot believe the stuff we're gonna read in that story here.
Okay, so let's see. The story of Noah is told, or at least his name is mentioned in the Quran, 43 times in 43 verses. Quran 71 is called the Book of Noah. In some of these locations, only his name is listed with no details, as one of the prophets whom Allah sent. Then sometimes there's just a short passage, and other times a lengthy passage. His name exists in 43 locations, and even if one studies all that has been given by Allah in the Quran and all that is written in the Hadith by Muhammad, one cannot answer some of the simple questions concerning the life of Noah or the life of the people of his time. So, who was Noah? The answer cannot be found by reading the Quran or Hadith, but amazingly, Ibn Kathir gave us the genealogy
I have to stop you for a minute. How in the world Allah and Muhammad do not know who is Noah, but Ibn Kathir, who came hundreds of years later, can tell me about Noah? Do you know how?
Allah spoke to him through oral knowledge.
No. Actually, he just used his eyes and he
read the Bible.
Which is written in the Bible. And now you got Noah. And that's why I tell my Muslim friends, we're going to waste our time to talk about Noah in the Quran, when in reality, we can just open Genesis account and read a few chapters, and we know everything we need to know about Noah. Okay, now,
right.
Before we even get to Noah, I have some thought to share with our wonderful people here. Why Muslims leave Islam after studying the Quran? And why they become an atheist? Because that is the main point where I'm going to hit on as we go on in all these studies. It's very simple, because they discover the nonsensical material, the ridiculous information which Muhammad contradicted throughout the Quran about each and every one of these stories. And then they come to believe the same God, Allah, the same God, Allah, who is known to be Satan, to convince them that there is no God and all this just made up. I mean, how in the world you tell me some water came, where the water came from, how the entire earth was covered with water, or maybe, according to Muslim scholars' interpretation, which is contradiction, and the word of Allah, it was a local flood. Some area which you have, sometimes you have water flood in America, and it will hit few cities in Florida, or maybe a few cities in Louisiana, or maybe some area in Arizona. Yeah, local flood. That is what Noah is telling us in the Quran, as we will read his own word. When he's really praying to Allah, oh Allah, don't leave any people on earth, because they will mislead the good Muslim believers. So obviously, before we even get into that, do we have any archaeological evidence? Do we have any physical evidence that there was flood years ago? Remember in Brother Lloyd, when we talk about the water above the heaven, from the water below the heaven, Genesis chapter 1, the water above the heaven, that answers the question, where does the water come from? The earth is a small, tiny ball. Outside was huge amount of water. That water was separated from the water which was on the earth, the rivers and the seas and all that. Actually, there were no rivers, only seas, because there was no rain yet. Seas, fresh water. So the water above the heaven poured down, and some of the water on the earth shot out from the earth, and you got enough water to cover the earth. Now, do we have any evidence? If something like this happened, there must be some physical evidence in some top of mountain, some sea creatures which normally live in the sea. Do we see that anywhere in the world?
I mean, I was on Table Mountain once in my city, which is about 1,300 meters, or like 3,000 feet, something like that. And on top of Table Mountain, you can find fish fossils. You can find, like stuff that and the sea is like more than a kilometer below us.
Yeah.
So yeah, but also I've watched various documentaries about evidence for there was some kind of cataclysm. There was some kind of global flood.
Yeah. So the global flood is not just a made-up story by Moses in the Bible and Muhammad copied in the Quran, which is a great evidence why Muslims will leave Islam. Because, well, if Noah's make no sense in the Quran, it must be it does not make any sense in the Bible, and we don't have any evidence of that huge flood worldwide. Therefore, there's no God. No, my friends. Thank God for the technology. You can do it from your own phone, from your own computer. And you do some of the great researchers, some of the archaeologists who dig into the earth and go up to the mountain and dig here, dig there. There is creatures could not walk up against the water for an hour or two, that they can go for hours and days, and they end dead on the top of the mountain, covered with some layer of soft dirt, or even just being there. So obviously the evidence is overwhelming that there was flood. So Noah's story is not just a story, it's a biblical account. Let me add another thing. If there was Noah and there was a flood and there was a big ship and a bunch of people were saved and the rest of the world died, you may hear the story in different parts of the world. And guess what? We got that. You can find people who spoke different languages, who live in different parts around the world, and they will all of them, they will tell you there was a man by the name Nuh, a man by the name Nuh, a man by the name Nuh, a man by the name Nuj. I mean, they all have the end, and somehow the rest of the name is different. And he built a big ship, and it took him hundreds of years, and you can go on with all this information about 8 people were saved from this huge water. That story, that legend, which we read or we hear all over the world in different, not exactly word for word, is a great evidence that this is not just a made up story. It is reality. So with that being said, go ahead, Brother Lloyd, go back to our study here to know about Noah in the Quran.
Okay, let me just bring that back. So, briefly, the genealogy is obviously copied from Genesis 5, and
Mhm.
there are several minor spelling errors which he copied into the Arabic. And he says that Noah was born 126 years after the death of Adam. Given that the Quran has no such information, how did he come up with this date? Well, he had some kind of knowledge of the Bible. So you'll find the ages of every one of these fathers and they birthed their sons. Only there one can find the age when Adam died. So yeah, they do all the whole addition, subtraction, and Aisha was 22 when Muhammad married her. That's how they work all of this stuff out. So
Yeah,
Islamic mathematics, yeah.
yeah, must be. Yes, indeed.
So Adam was 130 when he had his son Seth. Then you add that to the ages of Noah, which is 105 plus 90 plus 70. I'm already past the point where I've got to take off my socks to count to 20. I can only do 20 max with my education. And this leaves us at something like 126 years off. After a lot of mathematics, we get to 126 years after the death of Adam.
The whole
So,
point is when you read the Quran, there is no information, no numbers, no names, no cities, no locations, no nothing.
no
But
math.
somehow, amazingly, Muslim scholars can go to the Bible and get the information from the Bible and add it to the Quran, which have nothing in it, and somehow they became a scholar. How because he became a scholar by giving me that information? If and where he did get it from? He get it from the Bible and the story.
Really crazy stuff. Ibn Kathir continues to make fun pardon me, make fun of the Bible. And he considers it to be false when he said the people of the book said that the days between Noah's birth and the day of Adam died was 146 years, except it's 126 years, so we just take that away. So he even gets the dates wrong. So somehow he makes the false claim about the age in the Bible. That's interesting.
And what I'm trying to say here is this. Ibn Kathir can use the Bible to get his information to share with his audience. And at the same time, if you have anything in disagreement in his head, there's nothing in the Quran, it's in his head. If something in his head does not match the Bible, for sure the Bible is wrong.
So how
For
does he
sure.
know the Bible is wrong if he has no evidence to back his claim on?
Because they make up stuff all the time. They make up stuff all the time. That is a problem.
Wow.
All right.
Sahih Bukhari. Ibn Abbas said, that between Adam and Noah, 10 centuries, and all of them were Muslim. What?
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. You see, Adam was a Muslim, his children were Muslim, his grandchildren were Muslim, and all of them were Muslim. Even Noah, when he came, he was a Muslim.
Mary was a Muslim apparently too, but I would like to see the archaeological evidence that Abraham was in Mecca. And then on top of that, if Abraham brought books and Ishmael brought books, they were both prophets and they preached Islam, then why was no warner sent before Muhammad, who is the first warner sent to the Arabs? And then why would they need Muhammad if Abraham and Ishmael were already there? And where are the books that Ishmael brought? Where are the books that Abraham brought? Where's the Injil? Where's the Bible that was in
Brother,
Arabia with the Jews when Muhammad? Where is any of this?
you're asking too many questions you'll never even answer from the Muslim. But if there was a book and this book disappeared, the Jewish people ruined it, burned it, destroyed it, whatever it is, that is one thing. But the miracle of all miracles that Muslims believe in these books, even that they know that these books no longer existed. How can you believe a book does not exist?
That is crazy. There is no such book. They
Allah,
cannot.
Allah in the Quran, Lloyd said, we say we believe in the prophets and we believe in the books and we believe in the angels and we believe. How can you believe in something that does not exist?
You can't even prove. And if they were Muslim, I'd like to know what were their texts, what were their scriptures, what evidence is there, or what written evidence from any civilizations around them, what groups witnessed this, what people wrote about it, what evidence is there to prove this. I'd love to see it. So let me see. Adam was Muslim, Noah was Muslim, Jesus was Muslim, David was Muslim, Abraham was Muslim, Mary was a Muslim.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Brother Lloyd, when you get the knowledge, please share it with me because I would love to hear it to myself.
I'm still waiting for answers because I've put that all out on my social media and people seem to have a problem answering me. So, yes. This reminds me of the hadith, which is repeated by scholars, when Muhammad said that when Adam was walking in the garden, he saw the written statement in the sky made of light, which said, "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger." Then Adam asked, "Who is Muhammad?" And Allah said, "Because of Muhammad, I created you." So let me see. So through Jesus, Allah is going to create man. All creation was. Am I getting this right? Through Muhammad? What was I thinking?
That's why in the world you put Jesus in it. Yeah.
I was just good grief. So basically, that's got no resemblance to any story that I've ever read.
Well, you just have to believe what Muslim scholars tell them because otherwise you will not be a Muslim. Submitting, surrendering to whatever they've been told. That's what it is. They told him, they told her.
Yeah, this is crazy. So, one of the strangest statements of it, in the Sirah, Muhammad is effectively a deity. He's a part of God, of Allah, rather. I actually don't like to use the word God because that's the Christian concept. It's Allah.
Yeah, but you know what, Lloyd? There is a new study out there which a lot of people believe in it, and I begin to believe in it. That when you start talking about Muhammad in the early writings, I believe those who were creating the Quran they were talking about Jesus. They were not talking about Muhammad.
Yeah,
but somehow things twisted, and the devil used the writing about Jesus to make them talk about another guy, and who is going to be the Arab leader, who is the one with the rest of the Quran. But it will make more sense. The more I read about what they say about Muhammad, the more I am convinced that yes, there were actually some cultic Christian who were trying to write about Jesus somehow, the praised one, Muhammad, the praised one, the one who Mahmoud, the one who's worthy to be praised, and that is how all this came up to be.
Right. So these were all believers in Muhammad. So some may say the word Muslim means those who surrender or submit, meaning they surrendered to Allah, but the answer is they were believers in Muhammad. Of course, so Muhammad was known before Muhammad. Fine. One of the strangest statements of Ibn Kathir is that the generations before Noah were different than the generations of our days because people's lifespans were longer. They were also taller. They were 3 times taller than they are now, or 4 times taller. According to that, the distance between Adam and Noah was thousands of years, and Allah knows best. He
That
tells
is a
us the
beauty.
time, you know.
That is the beauty. Allah knows best. You cannot wrong with anything you want to say about Islam if you end it, and Allah knows best. Wallahu a'lam.
And in sheer coincidence, the time between Adam and Noah was 1,056 years, which is the difference between when Adam was created and Noah was born. He contradicted himself by telling us there were thousands of years between them. Yeah.
It have to be at least 3,000 or more because that make it plural.
Thousands. 1,056. Okay, fine. Obviously, he was confused because knew that people lived 900 or so years, but could not measure the length between those people and the following generations. This is Islamic mathematics.
Yeah.
Muslim scholars also disagreed on the age when Noah was sent to be a prophet. Some said 50, some said 350, others said 480. The real answer is in the Bible, as we will discuss later. How long did Noah live? Well, Quran 29:14-15 says, and indeed we sent Noah to his people. He stayed among them 1,000 years less 50. That's 950 years. The deluge seized them and they were unjust. We delivered him to the companions of the ship. Who are the companions of the ship? And we just made it, and we made it a sign to the worlds.
Okay. We have two problems. Number one, Noah was sent to his people. When you hear that phrase in the Quran, you think that, Moses was sent to the Jewish of Egypt, in Egypt. Lot, no, not forget about Lot because that's Quran. Let me give you a biblical one. Jonah was sent to the people of Nineveh. So there is a prophet was sent to specific people, specific group for a specific time in a specific location. But is that story with Noah? Was there only a few people in Noah's area where he was ministered to and he forgot about the rest of the people on the earth? Or Noah was sent to the entirety of
world.
who live in the world?
He had to warn everyone of the flood.
Well, Muhammad does not know that it is worldwide flood. I know this for a fact. I'm going to show you from the verses of the Quran. But when Muhammad says in the Quran, Noah was sent to his people, what about the other people who are not his?
Those guys had boats.
Yeah, I understand that. Big boats.
Or they were going to be outside the flood zone. They were in Nepal
The
and
dry
places
area.
like
The
dry areas. Yeah, in Australia.
Yeah, it must be there. Yeah, it must be dry there.
This is fascinating. So according to the Bible, so he lived 350 years. So Noah was sent to his people when he was 350 years old, according to Nasir ibn Ali. Then he lived another 350 years after that. That's 350 plus 950 plus 350. That's 1,650. That's a little bit older than the Bible, I think, says he was.
Yep.
And one of the statements which Muhammad repeats throughout the Quran was that Allah saved Noah and the companions of the ship. Obviously, Muhammad did not know who the ones were who were saved on the ship. Quran 7:59-64 is the first time where Muhammad mentioned more than just Noah's name. Indeed, we sent Noah to his people. So he said, "O my people, serve Allah. You have no God other than him. Surely I fear for you the torment of a great day." The leaders of his people said, "Surely."
By the way, you know the words you're reading right now? It is word for word, copy and paste when you talk about the rest of the prophets in the Quran. They all have the same message, the same sentence, the same words, copy and paste. Control C, Control V. That is exactly what Muhammad did in his Quran. So I don't know, does he have any other word that they have? Is this how limited his vocabulary?
I need to correct you. It's Quran C, Quran V.
Oh, Quran C, Quran V. I got you. All right. I mean, seriously, what we need to do maybe next week, because we don't have time today to go in depth. Next week, we can look at some of these words, some of these verses, and just play with it. Search it on the computer, and you find it was said by Abraham, it was said by Noah, it was said by Moses, it was said by Lot, it was said by Saleh, it was said by, every prophet in the Quran said the same sentence, Lloyd.
It was said by. There's something so simplistic. There's something so childish about the Quran's message when I read it, especially with you, the way that you describe it. There's something so simplistic. It's like, and then Noah lived 1,300 and 900 and 463,190 and 100 and 200 years. And like, really? Wallah, true. It just sounds a little simplistic. It's something about it of that.
I
So
don't know. Maybe it have something to do with what Muhammad used to drink or smoke. There's something there.
no, it's so strange. And yeah, who are the people? Who are the leaders? Who are the? It's so vague. It's deliberately vague so they can make the story say whatever they want. And then the leaders of the people said, "Surely we see that you are in
When he
obvious
says
error."
the leaders, you know what's amazing? If you look for the word "the leaders of the people" in the Quran, you will find the same words written about every other prophet. Who are when he says I mean, you're talking about people have leaders. I mean, who are the leaders of the people? I did not
Um,
know that in Noah's days there were people and leaders for the people. Man, they were organized to cities and villages and counties. And what is the leaders of the people, man?
them. It's them. They are those the, the leaders. If you don't know them, you know
Why
what?
Moses forgot me? It's a question. Why Moses forgot to write me about the leaders of the people of Noah in the Bible, but somehow Muhammad knows it in the Quran when he did tell me nothing about Noah?
Yeah,
All right, move on. Move on. Let's enjoy the
you're not a
holy
good
word.
Muslim, Osama. I'm disappointed. You're not a
So
good
many
Muslim.
holes in the Quran, man. It's so holy. Go for it.
So, my people, there is no error in me, but I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds, all seven of them. I delivered to you the messages of my Lord, and I give you advice. And I know from Allah that what you do not know. Or do you
Wow.
wonder that a reminder came to you from your Lord upon a man from among you to warn you and that you may fear and perhaps that you may receive mercy? So they
Same
denied him.
sentence. Lloyd. Same sentence, word for word. Abraham said it. Saleh said it. Ad said it. Lot said it. Moses said it. Same words. That verse 62 and 63 and 64, same words. Somebody help me out. Hundreds of years apart, but thousands of years apart, and they all repeat the same words? Did Allah run out of words? Are they all using the same script? They all use the same paper?
Well, this is the Quran for beginners.
Oh, the book's called Quran for Dumbers.
It will make you dumber, but it's fine. So they denied him. So we delivered him and those who were with him in the ship, and we drowned those who denied our verses, and surely they were a blind people.
So we deliver him and those who were in the ship. Who are the those?
Those guys, the ones in the ship, all of
I
them,
was on the ship. Man, I got
all
it,
of
man.
them.
I
Yeah,
did not realize that. All of them.
the people. I mean, on the ship's passengers.
The companion of the ship and the people who believe in it, they all got together on the ship and Allah delivers them.
Yeah, exactly, precisely. And you know what is interesting on this? If you look in the Quran, I covered this, and there's a problem with my software for some reason, and I can't get to my notes. But in in the Bible, Noah has three sons, right? Well, what are the names? Ham, Shem, and Japheth, I believe, something like that.
Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Yes, sir.
Now, in the Quran and in the Islamic narrative, Noah has a fourth son called Yam,
The Quran,
Y-A-M-M.
in the Quran, one son who drowned. We're going to see a little bit here. But in the interpretation of the scholars, there are four sons.
Yeah, the son who drowns is called Yam. And what is fascinating is that Yam is the name of the Babylonian or Canaanite sea god. And Yam would fight with Baal every year because in the Canaanite Babylonian slash religion, what happened was there would be every year there'd be an annual flood in the river. You spoke of a local flooding. There would be the flooding of the Nile, for instance. There'd be the flooding of the Euphrates. This was a local flooding. And what happens is that this was the fight of Yam, the sea god, against Baal, the main god. And of course, Baal would have to fight back, and of course, eventually he would win. And so Yam is the god of the sea. Yam is a secondary god, and Yam fights against Baal every year, and against the head of the pantheon to take over the pantheon of gods, which is very interesting that the fourth son in the Quran is literally named after a Canaanite god, and
So there
it's
was,
derived from a Canaanite myth. Yeah.
yeah. So there was influence of the myth of such places and land. Somehow Allah used it to make up the verses of the Quran. Not, the scholars used it to help us to understand the missing verses of the Quran.
Right. It's
Okay,
really crazy. I'm trying to
good.
get that reference in my notes here, but my software is giving me some grief. But yeah, it's really weird. I mean, this is I covered it. I covered this some not that long ago on my channel. I mean, this is just the oddest thing, really. So I mean, why is there that reference to pagan myth, Canaanite myth, or Babylonian myth in the Quran? It doesn't make any sense. And he dies, and he's the son of the water. I mean, he's the water god, and the water god dies in the water in a storm.
Brother Lloyd, let's be clear here. Most information you just shared, it is not in the Quran. It is in the writing of so-called Muslim scholars to help us to understand the Quran. You will never see Yum in the Quran. You'll never
Yeah,
see the four sons in the Quran.
you're right. They mention a fourth son. You're right. They just mention a fourth son. But yeah, it's so obviously
All
they've
it is his son. When you read that phrase in the Arabic language, he did not say one of his sons, but he said his son, which is his only son drowned. So is his mama, by the way. And we'll find out
right.
why later. We'll find out why later.
Yeah. So you've mentioned already the exact words, the copy paste in the Quran. Um, so this is the style of Muhammad's wording throughout the Quran. From a reading a passage, such as Quran 10:71 to 73, you can compare the wording and recite to them the news of Noah when he said to his people, O my people, if my dwelling with you was big, and my reminding you of the verses of Allah, so on Allah I depended. So gather your affair and your partners, then do not let your affair be a burden on you. Come to me and do not wait. If you turn away, so I have not asked you for any wage. My wage is only on Allah, and I am
Whoa!
commanded.
Somehow, all the prophets whom Allah sent in the Quran did not get wage. All of them worked for free, except Muhammad. He got 20%.
Yeah. So they denied him. So we delivered him and those who were with him in the ship, and we made them viceroys, and we drowned those who denied our verses. So see how was the end of the warned. Okay. Quran 54.
And
Before.
by the way, as you continue to read all this passage, when you compare it to the Bible, none of that which Muhammad put in the Quran fit with that which is written in the true biblical account about Noah in the Bible. Okay, go ahead.
This is so crazily vague. It's so unspecific. It's insane.
You can
And
change the word Noah to any other name, it will all be the same.
yeah, so before them the people of Noah denied, so they denied our servant and said demon possessed and rebuked.
Do you
So
know
they
that
called.
Muhammad lied here? And he said that they accuse Noah of being demon possessed because he himself was accused of being demon possessed. So what Muhammad said, wait a minute, I'm not the only guy, I'm not the only prophet, I'm not the only messenger who people said I'm demon possessed. Look, they did the same thing with Noah. When in reality, if you go to the Bible, there's no such a thing.
Yeah.
Nobody ever said that Noah was a demon possessed.
I mean, and as Sergeant Grinch says, Biden only took 10%. I mean, Biden's an eyewitness to these events. He was around when this happened. He's that old. So, so he opened the doors of heaven. So he called his Lord, I am overcome, so help me. So we opened the doors of heaven with swift water, and we caused the earth to gush springs. So the water met according to the
These two,
preordained measure.
one verse there, Brother Lloyd, the heaven and the earth, that is biblically accurate. Muhammad took these from the Genesis account, and we're going to read it.
Yeah. And we carried him on planks and nails.
Oh, let's stop for a minute. Let's stop for a minute. Do you know when the nails were made? Do you know when they discovered the iron?
I was about to ask. Um, so let me see, nails probably from like
It would make
1741.
sense. Listen, look. It would make sense in Muhammad days. People built, they use nails and boards, So why not Noah?
Yeah. I mean,
Look
like
at
David wearing chainmail long before chainmail was ever invented. Yeah. No. So sailing before our eyes, a reward to who was an infidel. And
Was
indeed,
was it really sailing?
yes, it had a big sail on the front. Was in fact they had a solar driven engine as well.
I love it when the Ibn Kassir, I believe, is the one who told us of not this one of the scholars. I think I maybe wrote it down here coming up. He said actually that boat went in circle around the Kaaba 40 times. So the ship of Noah did the Hajj. I'm sorry, I don't know, 7 times, 47 times. Anyway, the ship circled around the Kaaba, man. That's how we know that the ship and those who were in the ship were Muslims.
All ham to Allah. Allah
Amen.
likes ham.
Amen.
And indeed, we left it a sign. So is there any who remember? I mean, this is an incoherent string of sentences. This hurts my brain to read this.
See,
To
I don't remember. You know why? Because I was not there. I don't know why Allah is asking the question.
so
Is there
how was
any?
my torment?
How can Muhammad or the companion of Muhammad or the Muslim who lived in this earth the last 1400 years can remember something they have never seen? I
Uh,
remember some of the stuff which I've been through in my life, but there's a lot of stuff I don't remember. Makes sense. But are you going to ask me about, do I remember what happened in Egypt 300 years ago, 400 years
you
ago?
do.
Of course I'm not going to remember
You.
it.
I mean, look, you're just not trying hard enough, okay? Because it was memorized, and you just didn't speak to the right person to memorize it from. So we
But
made the Quran easy to remember. So is there
see,
any who
see,
remember?
see, you cannot remember what happened in the past, but you can remember the Quran. Well, if the Quran is easy to remember, why in the world we have 40 some Qurans today with different wording?
Wow, because it was passed down through because as a mercy to people, the Quran was given in different recitations for different people who like
You know,
different
you're
styles.
worse. You're much worse than Adam Seeker. Yesterday, he's tried to defend Islam every time I ask a question, and I said to him, "If I'm a Muslim and I'm listening to you, I will leave Islam on the spot. It makes no sense." But anyway, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. The claims of the Quran about the Quran goes against everything we know of the Quran. So the Quran said always it is in Arabic language, pure Arabic. It's not pure Arabic. It have tons of languages. Okay, the Quran said that it is easy to understand. I'm sorry. There are lots of passages. It's very ambiguous. There's no one can understand it. Even Muslim scholars give us 10 different opinions, and they always end, and Allah knows best. So you cannot understand. The Quran said it is easy to remember, but we have all these different Qurans with different words today in the Arabic language. Where is these claims about the Quran by Allah and the Quran to be true?
Did you just say that Allah has the best nose because Allah's nose is best?
Keep going, man. Keep going. I'm sorry. I hate to disturb you, but this question I have to get out. Hopefully, our dear,
No, I
wonderful.
mean you ask a good question. Why does Allah, well, Jibril, or sorry, the angel gibberish, repeat the same story over and over again with only minor changes, but no specific details, no reason why it's repeated in multiple places
I
rather
got the answer.
than
I got the answer. Are you ready?
I'm listening.
All right. And I'm not making it up. I will convince you 100% I'm telling the truth. Muhammad claimed to be a prophet for 23 years. Muhammad repeated these stories in the Quran, not because he wanted to repeat it. He actually said it so many times to the people whom he talked with in these 23 years. So, yes, use imagination. Muhammad, in the first year of his claiming to be a prophet, and he talked about Noah. 5 years later, he tells the same story of Noah in different words. Another bit years, 3 more years later, he repeats the same story with different words. That's what we're reading right now. So it was one story Muhammad repeated, but he could not remember what he said in the first time. That's why you see very close. There's similarity between what Allah repeated in the Quran about Noah. Sometimes you see huge difference, huge error, but that's okay. But sometimes he add couple sentences, sometimes he lose couple sentences, and it's the same sort of Noah. Now Muhammad is dead or whatever. So the people who write in the Quran, they said, which one is it? All of them are right. Remember Muhammad said, two angels came to him and they asked him to repeat the words of Allah in the Quran in different forms, in different words, and that's what he did, and he continued to do that until he made them 7 times. Here it is, the same story. He forgot what he said earlier. He repeated again and again and again and again. The people memorized it in all these different words, and then it was collected in all these different formats to come up with the verses of the Quran. And that's how the Quran became so big. 6,000 verses. That's equal to 3/4 of a verse a day.
Um,
I did not convince you. No.
yeah, because look, when you're illiterate, it's tough to write verses. So the
It's
fact that
required.
an illiterate man wrote that much per day is a miracle.
Yeah, 3/4 of a verse a day. Divided 6,000 by 365 by 23 or 22, you come up rough. It's not even a verse a day. And if you imagine with me, some of the verses of the Quran is one word. Some of the verses of the Quran is a letter. Noon, Alif Lam
Well,
Mim, Alif
I
Lam
know
Ra.
a story about like when you have like a full, like for instance, an apple a day, right? One whole apple a day, not 3/4, but one whole apple a day keeps the doctor away. So
Yeah.
imagine how much fun you can have with a box of apples and the doctor's daughter. So, but moving on, sticking to theological topics. Let's.
Amen. Amen.
So, I'm a messenger from Allah, the Lord of the worlds, which is according to the Bible, Satan. So this is the claim of Muhammad. And the God of the Bible never described himself as the Lord of this world, but the Bible clearly states the God or Lord of this world is Satan. Fair enough. So they denied him, and Allah saved him and those who believed in him. So the ship was made with planks and nails. According to the Bible, as well as oral and written history, that is not true because the boat was constructed with pegs. Noah did not use nails to put the ship together. And of course, one of the strange, short passages concerning Noah's wife is found in Quran 66:10, which directly contradicts the true account of the Bible. For Muhammad mistakenly tells us that Noah's wife and Lot's wife were admitted into hell. Okay. Allah set forth an example to those who became infidels. The woman, the wife of Noah, and the woman, the wife of Lot. They were under two of our good servants, but they betrayed them. So they did not benefit from them against anything against Allah. And it was said, enter the fire with those who are entering.
Okay.
Wow, this
The word
language is
betray, yeah, the word betray here, khanata, that is the one word we use when a woman cheats on her husband or a man cheat on his wife. So Noah's wife and Lot's wife, they were sleeping around, and that's why we found out later why Allah did not save Noah's son, because he was not his son. He was out of the sex relationship she had with some other guy. Keep going, brother.
Oops. Jeez, I was typing. I'm trying to type a message in. So welcome to Cliffy. He says he's in another broadcast, but that person keeps swearing filthy words. Yeah, we might be making fun of the topic today, but I think we generally stay away from filthy words. Okay, so yeah, someone may say that we need to read some of the other locations in the Quran where the story of Noah is given, but there is no long, detailed version of the story. There's just these random mentions. So if there are long passages in the Quran about Noah, why are the other locations simply bits and pieces spread throughout the Quran? Why are some of the important details in the story inconsistent? What was the response of Noah's people when he advised them to serve Allah rather than anyone else they were worshipping? So the leaders of his people said, surely we see that you are in obvious error. So the leaders of those who became infidels from his people said, we do not see you except a human like us, and we do not see any who follow you except the lowliest. He's just trying to argue for himself. Muhammad is arguing for himself.
I believe so.
He's just implying, hey, look, people didn't want to accept Noah, but you know what happened, so you got to follow me, because if you don't want bad things to,
Exactly.
that's all I'm getting. It's manipulation. This is just emotional manipulation.
Who follow Muhammad? Bunch of slaves he bought with his wife money. Abu Bakr, he bought some from. I mean, literally, Muhammad. And here we see again, Muhammad was so ignorant of Noah's true biblical account, because according to the Bible, how many of the people who follow Noah were the lowest? The word lowest here is like the scum of the community, the scum of the society, the uneducated, the very stinky people, smell bad, no clean clothes. How many of Noah's people can be described by that word, by that phrase?
Noah's people, but they were the righteous who were saved. So there's a
See,
problem.
yeah, the problem, Lloyd, is Muhammad does not know it was only Noah and his three sons and his three daughter-in-law. So if you do not know who were on the ship and his wife, by the way, 8 people. Old Testament, New Testament said 8 people. When you don't know, you just made up stuff, and people will agree with you. Will agree, or the
Yeah.
lowest. They were the
But
scum of the community. Really?
but I am seeing here cheap emotional manipulation. He's trying to assert something and he's trying to preempt being called a liar. And then on top of that, he's making assertions about people going to hell for cheating on their husbands with what evidence? Why? It's just random. Like, why is that in there? What's the cause? What's the reason? Where's the explanation? It's just arbitrary information just strung together. And it just feels like I'm being manipulated, like someone's trying to put a cheap story over on me.
It is. The Quran is a cheap book.
Ah, so the leaders of those who became infidels among his people said, "What is this except a human like you who desires to be preferred over you? And if Allah willed, he would send angels. We did not hear of this from our ancient father. He is only a man in whom is jinn, so watch him for a time." You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, go on,
Just
please.
jinn on Noah is the same thing they said about Muhammad. Muhammad is defending himself by accusing Noah to have the same problem which people accuse.
Problems.
Yeah.
That is so blatantly manipulative. It's Do you know, interestingly, the when you go through Arab history and you look at the culture of the Arabs, um, you find that the jinn, or shall I say demonology, was an intrinsic, inherent part of their culture. And in fact, to because they had no written history, because they were so backwards compared to all of the other cultures that surrounded them, they would remember things through poetry, through prose, through storytelling and songs and poets. And of course, they would embellish these over time, and they would have competitions. It was a common thing. They would have competitions, and they would tell these stories. And the best storytellers were possessed. All of them were possessed. And the better the storyteller, the more powerful the demon that you had, and the more strong the possession would be. And this thing about Muhammad being possessed, this is a legitimate part of Arab culture back then.
And by the way, it exists in Muhammad days, even in the writings of the poetry. So people used to write poetry. Lots of them write poetry, and they will have like a contest and see the best 7 of these poetries, and they will honor these poetry, the one who won the contest, and hangs it inside the Kaaba. So
Right.
it is a norm. It is what's happening in the life, in the culture days, in the culture setting of Muhammad.
Yeah, this is such a there's always something that irked me about the Quran, and now it's starting to become clear that I'm talking to you, and I'm starting to see this sort of manipulation, and there's like it's such a childish telling of the story.
And the worst is yet to come.
Yeah, and then surely whenever I called them so that you may forgive them, they put their fingers in their ears and covered themselves with their clothes and persisted, and they were proudly proud. That's the worst kind of proud. These are Republicans. I'm telling you, only
La,
Republicans
la,
would do
la,
like this.
la, 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 la.
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna hear you.
Oh, this is a grown-up channel, right?
Must
We're
be.
serious here. We are
I'm sorry.
serious here.
Hey, I was reacting what happened in the Quran. I was not
Oh,
trying to be silly. Okay, listen,
okay.
I'm sincere about it.
Oh, well, I was a
And
little concerned there for a second, but it's okay. I'll forgive it this one time. Okay, so Noah is one of the prophets to whom Muhammad devoted an entire portion of Revelation. Quran 71 has 28 verses. Another long passage is Quran 11, 25 to 49. And we'll use these passages to tell the story of Noah in the Quran. So, since Quran 71 was set apart to tell the story of Noah and was even named the Book of Noah, you might expect it to have more details of his story, but Quran 11
hey,
includes more details.
here's my question: why you name a chapter in the Quran like the Book of Abraham, or the Book of Mary, or the book? Why you name a chapter by a specific person when you don't tell me enough information in that chapter, but I can learn about that person somewhere else when it is not named by him? Does this make any sense to you? I'm writing a book, 50 chapter or 114 chapter. I'm going to emphasize on one to be the name of Lloyd. And you go to learn about Lloyd in that book, and you find nothing about Lloyd, or some information where they have everywhere. But I can go to the book of Usama, and I'll learn a lot about Lloyd. What is the purpose of that? What is the
Well,
point?
for the same reason that Jesus is mentioned several times more in the Quran than is Muhammad. In fact, Moses is mentioned significantly more times. So it's the book of Jesus,
Moses was a
Moses,
book,
and occasionally, very rarely,
a
Muhammad.
book of somebody else, but not Muhammad. Okay, you
Exactly.
know why? But listen. Because Muhammad was very humble. Hello, I give you
Yep.
the answer. You
So,
don't talk about yourself when you're humble.
um, you're right. So we all. In fact, I mean, when I was doing my sort of thing, like I was with my guru, and he was saying that he says I was the most humble person in the group, and I was becoming more humble by the day. And he said within a couple of months, I'd probably be the most humble person in the whole ashram, the whole guru's group. And so that's what I was doing for So yeah, I'm, yeah. So it's very
You
important to be
and
humble.
you were so proud of how humble you are.
I called all my friends, my family, and I was told that my guru was saying that I'm soon going to be the most humble person around. So it was great. I'm yeah, that's what you do, I think. Still, anyway, but hey, I made that up, just like Muhammad's making up stories here.
Amen. Amen. I agree. I concur.
So let me see. Okay, so Quran 11 has even more details, and all right, and of course, if the entire story of Noah were collected throughout the Quran into one passage to tell all Allah told Muhammad through his angel gibberish, even Muslim scholars could not answer simple questions which are answered in Genesis 6 to 11. Who was Noah? Ibn Kathir gave us his ancestry, but the question is, where did he get this information? Because it's not in the Quran. Yeah, where do they get this? So, but can Muslims tell us who Noah was without reading the Genesis account? And I would think the answer is no.
Absolutely not. Yes, sir.
Yeah, where was Noah born? When was he born? How long did he live? When did he die? Who were the people in his family? Who was Yam? When were they born? What were the people? Who were the people he was sent to? What about the ship that he built? The materials, the nails. What kind of nails? Who made the nails? Did he buy them at Walmart? Were they Walmart nails? Were
No,
they
it was Lowe's. It was Lowe's or Home Depot. One of the two. I
Lowe's or
cannot.
Home Depot? Okay, so even better. Lowe's or Home Depot. Where did he get the hammers? Was
That
he?
was China. No. He actually waited 3 weeks to get the ship from China. So
I
good
mean,
Chinese.
I know a very hardworking handyman. He used to make his way through 8, 9, up to 12 hammers a month. Everyone thought he was a very hard worker because he went through 12 hammers a month. But my view was he just wasn't practicing proper hammer maintenance.
They use a nailer, man, with air compressor to go faster.
So,
MashaAllah.
so was there any description of the ship which he built, such as the material with which it was built, dimensions and time needed to build it? What about the length of time it rained, the duration of the flood? You mean none of this is in the Quran, Osama? None of
Not
this.
zero, zip.
Holy
I'm telling
moly!
you,
What are they?
if you can understand the Quran by reading all that which is written about Noah, then please, with all means, stay Muslim. Please stay Muslim. If you can stand any story in the Quran without going back to the Bible, please, with all means, you don't need to become an infidel Christian. Stay Muslim. But if you read that miraculous book, The Miracle of Islam, if you read that book from cover to cover and you know nothing about anything, maybe you need to search for another book. Maybe.
Sergeant Grinch says I nailed that joke. Well, that's what you guys are on the channel for, right?
I never thought Grunch is a funny guy, but he is funny. Go ahead.
Okay, so Catherine says, yeah, these accounts remind me of how they build into the irrational whirling dervishes storytelling edition. Yeah, I mean, there's just something. I mean, how can you tell a story and you leave out all of the details? It's like obviously it's like you didn't study for the test and now you're just trying to make it up as you
Guys,
go on the exam.
brother, there was times in my life when I was in school in Egypt and I did not study the material and I fabricated an answer and I passed the test. But at least what I fabricated was close to that which I heard the preacher or the teacher was teaching all year long. But that guy here, he left everything in the book. He created new stuff which contradicts the book, and then he contradicts himself as he repeats the same story somewhere else in his book. Imagine that was me.
Right. Yeah, and so the Quran says the ship rested on Mount Judi. What if it was Mount Catherine or Mount Sally?
No, Judy, that's a mount, man. It's a real mountain for real. It's near Mosul. It is. But the problem is, when Muhammad gave information, he always get himself in trouble. He should just say, and the ship rest on the mount and leave it alone. Don't give me the name. Why you give a name when you don't know anything? You know nothing about Noah, and you're gonna make up the story. Keep it general. Don't give details, because what if the Bible mentioned a different mount? You don't have a problem.
Right. I know, but you know, something I've asked Muslims, we all worship the same God, right? You say that we worship the same God. So how about you say a prayer now in the name of Yahweh?
No.
And the answer is like, hell no. You're like, so how is it the same God? You know? So yeah, it's not the same. Yeah. So surely we sent Noah to his people, that warn your people before a painful torment comes. How about a flood's coming? Didn't Noah actually tell people there's going to be a flood?
He does not know. He does not know. And the torment came suddenly. Suddenly, oh, go ahead.
I mean, it's like there'll be a torment. What's the torment? An IRS audit.
But
a hurricane.
But Lloyd, that is the same word he used with every other prophet. So he does not want to change his technique of talking. That is his style of writing. These are the only limited words he knows to use in his vocabulary. So it's a torment. I mean, was he tormented for a long time?
It'll be painful. So surely I am to you a plain warner, that serve Allah and fear Him and obey me. He will obey me, and He will forgive you some of your sin, and He will delay you to an appointed time.
When He says some of your sins, what about the rest of your sins? See, Muhammad's concept of sin and the wages of sin does not fit in Islam. One sin, the Bible said, you fall in one, you fall in all. Imagine, you kept all the laws except you commit a murder. You kept all the laws except you said one lie. You kept all the laws except you did one thing and make you a sinner. If Allah will forgive 99.9 of your sins and He leave one sin unforgiven, guess where you're going to spend eternity? In hell. Why? Because the wages of sin is death, eternal death.
Right. This is very strange. You will forgive you some. And Catherine says the Dawa guys are telling Muslims to stay away from YouTube Christian apologists. The damage has been done and it's devastating. And I think this is true, Usama. I mean, I know for a fact, I've been told by a couple of people who are Speaker's Corner that Muslim apologists are told when anyone raises any of the stuff I bring up on my channel, like the Sharia, for instance, they walk away. They're not to have the conversation. They're not to engage no one. They're not to allow other Muslims to hear about it. They're going to take them away from the conversation. So yeah, I mean, they are losing this fight in a hard way, and I think they are struggling. I mean, you look at the Quran, and it's sad. It's such.
That is the only miracle. That is the only evidence Muslims have for their cult. I mean, it's not like the Quran and something else.
So yeah, what is a painful torment? What is this painful torment? Yeah, He's supposed to warn them that they would drown. So what painful torment? Like, and when they die in the future, but He's supposed to say, hey guys, in 30 days it's going to be raining and it's going to flood and you might want to build a little rowboat or something.
Yeah.
And He commanded people to serve Allah and obey Him. He promised that Allah would forgive some of their sin. What about the rest of the sin? Right? And no sin should be forgiven without a punishment, for God is just. He said in Hebrews, without shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. That's why there was the sacrificial lamb, and that's why Jesus also had to die on the cross. Actually, I had someone write a comment on my channel about an hour before, or like an hour ago. He said, well, Jesus didn't have to die on the cross. Jesus could have died from natural causes, and that would have been the same. And
within there's no shed of blood. And He cannot be stoned to death, which should have shed of blood, because He's going to break bones. And the Bible is very clear. The prophecy, He will have no broken bones.
I know the prophecies alone says there'll be a violent death, and He will suffer death.
Nails, hands, and feet. David, 1,000 years before Christ. Psalm 22. You have to. He cannot die anyway but on the cross.
Oh, wow. Hamza Yusuf just posted a video instructing them to stay away. Wow, now they're actually scared of us. That's great. We need to push
You know
hard,
what?
push forward.
Because of that, I promise you, a lot of Muslims are gonna watch our videos. A lot of them, I guarantee you,
I
because
hope
it's in
so.
nature. You know, if you tell me don't eat that, guess what I want to do? I want to eat it. If you tell me drink that, I don't want to drink it. So people always do what is not asked to do. So hopefully Hamza did a great job to bring more people to watch our channels.
Yeah. So Noah promised his people that Allah will delay them to an appointed time. But how could he? Because there's going to be a flood. There's going to be a flood anyway. So how? Okay.
Even it's okay. What Allah mean by that? That's my question there. If Allah, what do He mean by that?
They're going to sit in the waiting room and after they die, there's going to be a waiting room they're going to park in for a little while. And instead of being judged immediately, they're going to have a little bit of time to dry out their laundry and have a little chit chat. What? It doesn't. Okay. Wow. The room for speculation here is rife.
Amen.
So. So, my Lord, surely I've called the people night and day. I've called them night and day. So my call did not increase them except flight. And whenever I called them so that you may forgive them, they put their fingers in their ears. Oh, you were right. Nah, nah. So you were right. I was wrong. Sorry, Usama. You were
No,
right.
no, he was repeating himself. That's the same passage we read before. I mean, in different locations of the Quran, he repeated himself. I couldn't understand
And
why people put their fingers. I don't want to hear you. You should go away, man. I don't want to hear what you're talking. Why you do this little children sing?
yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to type and I'm really spelling badly here. I was trying to ask Catherine, well, what are the reasons Hamza said that he gave? Um, and yeah, it says they covered themselves with their clothes. I mean, weren't they covered already?
Maybe they
They
were
were
naked. Choose to cover their nudity with their clothes. MashaAllah.
Okay, so they're walking around naked back in Noah's day. That's weird because in the Bible, when Noah was naked, that was embarrassing.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's a big thing in the Bible. So, Noah was speaking to Allah, telling them that he called to his people, and his calling did not cause them to believe, but they ran away. And then Noah preached to his people as he explained to them how Allah is the creator and he created 7 heavens. He's really, all I'm getting is he's trying to associate himself with a figure that has a name, that has a history, and he's trying to say, I'm like that guy. That's what I'm getting out of this. I am getting someone who's trying to manipulate people into believing him by associating himself.
There's hardly any people believe in Noah. Here I am. Look at me. I only have few followers.
Yeah, this is what I'm getting out of this. So he taught that the moon, which Allah created, is a light. And in verses 16 to 17, the people came out of the earth and they will return to it. And the earth is flat, which is another error. And see these teachings in the Quran, 71, 10 to 20. Ask forgiveness of your Lord. Surely he was forgiving. He will send the heavens above you with abundance, and he will aid you with money and sons and make you gardens and rivers. And what is the matter that you do not hope to Allah a reverence? And indeed, he created you in stages. Have you not seen how Allah created 7 heavens, one above another? Yep. We're on earth too right now. And he made the moon in them light, and he made the sun a lamp. And Allah planted you from earth plants. Yeah. You know what? Muhammad would have made a great pot plant. All you'd have to do is stick him in the corner, water him twice a week, and I think that would have been great. And then he will return you into it, into the pot that he planted you from, and bring you forth a bringing forth. That's important. You need to bring forth a bringing forth.
Bringing forth. Yeah.
I always say that's what my mother used to say. In fact, it's times like these, Usama, that I wish I'd listened to the things that my mother had told me when I was younger. I really wish I had listened.
Why?
I mean, and here's where you say, what did she tell you, Lloyd? And I'll say, I don't know, Usama, I wasn't listening.
So you're not giving her attention. What a bad boy. What a bad boy. Anyway.
So, I mean, this is like someone trying really hard to sound poetic. I mean, maybe it's the translation.
It ended with beautiful 20 verses, man. If you think the Quran is just this book, if you take all the stuff you don't like, the child talk, the repeated stuff, if you take all this out, the Quran is gone. It will go from 400 pages to 150, 160 pages. You take what is written out from the Bible and other books out, you end with 40, 50 pages of verses teach to fight, perform jihad, kill, and have sex here and in eternity. End of the Quran. I can write the Quran in one day.
Yeah, that is so strange. What time do you expect your call? In 9 minutes. You have 9 minutes, Usama.
In 8 minutes, but we can move. Let's finish this program.
So in the following 5 verses, Noah was speaking to Allah, explaining the state of frustration and how they refused to worship Allah, but actually worship their gods. He's really saying they're refusing to listen to Muhammad.
Yeah, but look here.
And
They give us the name of the gods, man.
Wad, Sawa, Yagut, and Yauk. And Wad is love. Wad actually means love. It's actually a god that the name means love. Odd.
Or friends. Or friends.
In fact, these are not the names of gods. These are the names of aspects of a god.
I know, but how in the world Ibn Kathir, right now, guys, when you read this is my translation to what Ibn Kathir said in the Arabic book, The Beginning and the End, the story of the prophets. I'm literally translated what he said word for word. Now, how Ibn Kathir come up with these 5 gods used to worship when we know nothing about Noah in the Quran? How did he tie that together?
Yeah, where did he get this information? And these are pagan gods.
The name is the god I mentioned in the Quran, but how did he tie that to Noah? What is the source of such information? I know nothing about Noah, but somehow I know the names of the god which his people used to worship. Somebody help me.
I mean, this information is not in the Quran. These names are not there. How does he know it's these particular gods? That is really interesting.
No. These, Brother Lloyd, these names actually Muhammad mentioned in the Quran. What and Sawa and Noah, yeah. But what I'm saying is, how do you tie these names with Noah and Noah's people when you know nothing about Noah? The Bible never mentioned any of that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So what story are they really telling?
I have no idea. It's something. Somebody made share a sentence with Muhammad. He liked it. He said, "Oh yeah, let's put this with Noah. Yeah. These gods must be Noah's people worshiping." But I'm sorry that if you don't have any of the solid foundation information about Noah, how in the world you can add this in ridiculous information to it?
I mean, what is a personification of? I think of Hubal, who is Shin, the Babylonian god. If I recall correctly, Wad is one of. For instance, you had the same god. So people would think it's different gods, but different tribes had their own name for a particular god. Like let's say he was a god called the rain giver, because for them at one time they needed rain, so the god gave them. So they call him after that name. Like you call Jesus the Redeemer and the Lamb. Those aren't two separate gods. Same person, different name. So Wad is not a different god. It's just maybe.
My Egyptian history, my Egyptian heritage, the gods we worship, they always have something to do with nature.
Good point.
Yeah, so that's not nothing new. It is what people used to do.
Right. Yeah, this is interesting. So, wow. So they lived between the days of Adam and Noah, and that they did have followers who were guided by them. When these righteous people died, their companions who were guided by them made pictures of them. Others had statues. But when these companions died, a new generation came, whom Satan deceived, telling them that their ancestors were worshipping them. These pictures or statues used to bring the blessings of rain and other blessings, so people continued to worship them until Muhammad's days. Scholars like Ibn Abu Hatim said that when Aroa said that these 5 people were sons of Adam and that Wad was the oldest.
No. There's a problem now. You're talking about 5 gods, and you're going to tell me different interpretation. What does you mean by these words this, these words that, this one? I mean, why you give me contradictory information about these 5 names and make me believe that one of you are telling me the truth? Which one is telling me the truth? There's
no evidence in the Quran to back up any of these statements.
Yeah, Muslim scholars do not have consistency to understand what the Quran is talking about. And they give you different information, and you expect me to believe that they're telling me the truth?
Right. I mean, that's a very interesting story, but I mean, they need to provide evidence. They need to provide us some kind of information. And I mean, if these gods, let's say these gods are from Yemen, or let's say these gods are from East Africa, right? Then why there? Was Noah ever in that part of the world? Because Wad was a god of, I'm not sure if he was in Yemen, but he was certainly above Ethiopia at the time. So that means he would have been in what is above Ethiopia? Sudan and that region. Was Noah ever in that part of the world?
But remember now, some of the Muslims were sent to Ethiopia for a while when they were persecuted in Mecca, and they returned back to Mecca. Do you think they come up with that information from the Christians or the people who live in such land? And Muhammad
Right.
added this to
No,
his material.
they went. The first hijrah was to. If this happened, let's take it at its word. They went to Ethiopia on the first hijrah and there for 15 years almost,
Yeah.
15 years, let's say. Then obviously they would have heard the names of these gods
So,
from the
so
Africans.
it's, by the way, Muhammad's wife from Egypt marries a Coptic. She most likely is the one who told him about the story of the young man in the book of Cape who slept 309 years. And obviously, Muhammad
Right.
inserted this to the Quran. So it's like he's collected. And don't forget, Muhammad himself used to travel for 15 years as a merchandise working for his wife, Khadija. So obviously, he also heard so many
A
stories from all the
merchant who
travelers.
couldn't
All
count
night long.
money, who was illiterate, who couldn't figure out how to do his books.
What is real and what is fake. And he put all in the Quran. Put all in the Quran.
Catherine says, "Yeah, this is I'm being charitable. It's not even interesting. It's pointless," and that's fair. I mean, it's frustrating for me to read this, and so they were drowned and entered into the fire of hell, out of the drowning pan into the fire, obviously without finding any relief from the punishment of Allah. And Noah said, "Surely they disobeyed me and they followed those who did not increase their money." Oh boy, come to the
Was it
guys,
money in those days?
come to
Did they,
Allah and get the money.
is it
Right,
US dollar or yuan or euro? What kind of money does he have in Noah's days?
And they deceived a big deception, and they said, "Do not forsake your gods, and do not forsake Wad."
Here it
That
is.
is so out
Here
of
is the
place.
names of the gods.
And Yakut, Yakut. Actually, these are Southern Arabian and Eastern African gods of.
But
That's
somehow
really
they were
strange.
in Noah's days and they continue until Muhammad days.
That is so strange. This is a regional story, like you said. It's a regional flood,
Yeah.
and 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 they led many astray. And my Lord, do not increase the unjust except in error. I thought God wants to save everybody, but He must increase everyone in
Not
error.
Allah is the God of Muhammad. He leads astray whom he wills, and that's exactly what he was doing.
And they did not find themselves a helper without Allah. Okay,
Let's stop here, brother.
so
I hate to get to finally.
yeah.
How big is finally? Let's look at finally how big down. Finally.
We can see here we have 1, 2 pages,
No,
3.
sorry. No, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Stop
Okay,
it
6
here.
or 5 pages with the Quran, and then we do the Bible. So
Amen.
we'll tackle it. We'll tackle it again next week, and we'll pick it up again because you have to
Can
go
you
in 30
highlight?
seconds.
Yeah, if you don't mind, brother Lloyd, can you highlight where we stopped so we don't forget next week, Lord's willing? We'll catch up
I'm
to
trying to
this.
forget, Osama. I'm trying to forget. I'd rather not. It's trauma, it's trauma. This is traumatic.
I love it, brother. Appreciate you for being with me. Imagine when I wrote these materials and I was translating this stuff, I used to laugh and cry because I'm tired of it. And it's just, I said, how the world Muslim believe in such lies, such nonsense, and leaving the 5 or 6 chapters of the Bible. By the way, when we go to the Bible, all what you have to do is just read 6 chapters. It will take you roughly around 8-10 minutes, and it's gone. You got the whole thing. All the questions you asked, all the questions I wrote, all of them are answered in 6 chapters. It's not like we're writing a documentary or hundreds of pages. 6 chapters, 5 pages.
Like I said, there's more information you cannot get in the Quran than you do get. Just that list of questions. It doesn't tell you where, what, when, how, who.
Yeah.
None of that's there. It's like what's the point of having all of that information, all of those chapters, all of those pages, and there's no info. You have to go. So I shall let you go. Take care. Guys, thank you all very much. Usama, have a wonderful time. Next show. Take care, guys. See you all soon.